Sky have just tweeted that 56% of Britons think that the outcome of Brexit will be worse than they thought. And Gerrard Batten is now tweeting, oh, it seems to be that their campaign is working and that he seems to believe the propaganda, basically, that 56% of Britons believe it's going to be worse, when they only sampled 1,000 people. You should always look how many people they sampled, Gerrard. Take a leaf out of Tommy's book and stop taking the mainstream media credibly, because that's what Gerrard Batten does. You know, I support Anne-Marie Waters if I can, but I'm not really that happy with Gerrard Batten. He's quite good at working with the establishment, but he does have to work within the establishment. He's trying to straddle the line between both, which Nigel Farage severed that tie with, like, Tommy and so on. But, you know, he's trying to say, you know, that he supports Tommy, but then he works with all the establishment types that don't support Tommy. Yes, he says things about Islam, but he didn't run a group called Sharia Watch. He hasn't met all the victims and ex-Muslims, etc., like Anne-Marie Waters has. He's Anne-Marie Waters light. Now he's showing his naivety by believing Sky News polls when they sample 1,000 people. He believes that that's Britons. Really? The reason Tommy doesn't talk to the mainstream media is because he realises it's propaganda. He realises it's there to smear him, and every time they have someone on, they're going to try and discredit them and everything, and it's not worth giving them credibility. It's worth letting them get forgotten about. But Gerrard Batten keeps going back to them. Nigel Farage has proved himself to be the elitist that he is, because, you know, he might have been the reason that Brexit happened. He might have started the campaign and ran UKIP all those years, etc., and been the reason that, you know, we had that vote. But now he doesn't seem to realise that Islam is a problem, that Sharia is a problem, because our friends are Muslims and we're friends with Muslims and it's all lovely and, you know, all religions are to blame, etc., etc. So just deny the Islamisation of the country. Just deny people like Tommy. Just agree with the mainstream media when they say he's a thug. Call Anne-Marie Waters a far-right neo-Nazi and betray all the people that you supposedly work for, that you supposedly fight for. That's why I don't listen to him anymore on LBC. And since Majid Nawaz started talking about how new UKIP policy is basically going to make Muslim concentration camps. Yeah, because concentration camps were for criminals, weren't they? We're talking about the criminal system. If someone's broken the law, they go into the criminal system and then they go into Muslim-only prisons. Concentration camps were for the general population, for the citizenry. We're not talking about that, so it's a totally different thing. So Majid Nawaz is being disingenuous. He knows he is, but then he's a halfway house as well. He's there to cause more of a problem. So I've stopped listening to him. I've said before many times, what good is Brexit if we live in the caliphate? What good is having our independence from the EU if we've just got an Islamised country with Sharia law? We're being thrown away, we're being ditched, we're being built up into a caliphate, just like Hungary's being punished for rejecting Soros groups and rejecting the migrant quotas of the EU, etc. You know, they've pushed out the Soros groups and now they're being punished. Now they're having sanctions. Now Macron, France, and, you know, Merkel in Germany and all the globalist leaders of the EU that don't really care about their countries, that actually only really care about NATO's borders and not their country's borders, they're taking charge of the situation. They're imposing sanctions on other countries in the EU. But oh, listen to all the virtue signalers like Tony Robinson and Matt Lucas and David Walliams and Gary Lineker and all of the comedians that you used to like back in the old days. All the people, you know, all the actors, etc. Listen to them all virtue signal about how the EU is wonderful and how all these racists have taken control of the country now. Because the EU is wonderful, isn't it? That's why they want to take away the internet and, you know, they've just passed censorship and banning memes and so on. Yeah, people don't know anything about the actual EU, the actual destruction that they've been doing, stopping countries having, you know, their right to have a referendum, even. As Jeremy Corbyn said, worsening the workers, the social charter, the social chapter. Or weakening. Worsening, weakening, workers, weakening. It's there to strengthen the big corporations with its over-regulation and its tariffs and its quotas and its, you know, excessive regulations, basically red tape, bureaucracy, so that no one can follow it apart from the really big corporations, and the ones that get disproportionately targeted are the small companies, which are the ones that supposedly Jeremy Corbyn was fighting for. But he supports the very entity that wants to shut those ones down. So, you know, Jeremy Corbyn might have said some good things about, you know, the Skripals and being cautious and saying maybe it's not Russia, you know, because all these countries can manufacture Novichok, and maybe it's not even Novichok if we look at the findings from Spies Lab in Switzerland. He can be quite right when he talks about the NHS and healthcare and, you know, the benefit, the bedroom tax and benefits system sanctions and so on, which has led to an effective genocide, which the UN has said. And I don't trust the UN, but hey. The age of austerity was imposed on us by the globalists, and it was fed through us through the Tories. They're just the puppets. So yeah, I agree with Jeremy Corbyn on that. They've been the establishment all this time. They're the government. They are the establishment, the Tories. Labour are basically the reaction against that. However, their party is absolutely horrific. It enforces every kind of political correctness. It enforces everything's racist. You know, white people are racist automatically. You should pay more if you're a white man, all that kind of stuff. And then it wants endless open borders, endless immigration, because it hasn't caused any problems at all, has it? But make no mistake, the Tories are the ones in charge. They're the ones leading the treason, leading the Islamisation of our countries. They're the ones with the migration policies, and Theresa May was Home Secretary. She's the one that actually is responsible for all the crimes and all the major disasters that are going on right now that we're feeling the effects of. They always try and blame the previous government, but how long ago was Labour? And it's nothing to do with Brexit, it's to do with the fact that they're not even doing Brexit. It's just Brexit in name only, but there is no actual Brexit. There's division within the country, there's all kinds of money decisions and people, like, you know, stocks and shares rising and falling, and business leaders saying that they're going to have to lay off a certain amount of people, and celebrities echoing that, you know, line through all these people. Ultimately coming to the conclusion that staying in the EU is wonderful and liberal and we'll all be happy and free. Nothing can be further from the truth, and these virtue signallers know nothing about the EU Commission. And even less about the globalist agenda. They are useful idiots of the global elite, and that means they are not useful to humanity.